welcome to the Bair Attack podcast. After our 1 week forced hiatus.
Yeah.
I got real. Oh, wait. Sorry. We are your hosts, Tori, Bair. I always forget to introduce us.
Yeah.
We are your hosts, Tori, Bair, and
Josh Bair.
we are husband and wife. We've been married for about 1.5 years, right?
Yeah.
That's bizarre to me.
Yeah.
And we didn't have a podcast episode come out last week because I was very, very sick.
Yeah.
I had a fever and I was achy and I just couldn't even think straight. So, and I couldn't talk without coughing. So it would have just been very uncomfortable to listen to. I still have a cough that still might happen during this episode, but it's much less frequent than it was last week.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Josh isn't feeling that well either. He definitely caught what I had.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, you know, what's going to happen when two people are living together. So we're just going to, but he feels up to doing the podcast tonight. And you don't really you weren't coughing. You're not coughing like I was.
Not as much as you were. Yeah.
I still have a cough. I just need to get some cough medicine or something.
Yeah.
Well, what happened was last weekend we were in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And we were visiting my brother and my sister-in-law. And I have to give her a shout out. Shout out to Amy Cartea up in Massachusetts, my amazing and beautiful sister-in-law.
Woohoo.
She is a faithful listener to the Bair Attack podcast, and we love her. And I have to cough. I was like low-key trying to hold it in during that whole sentence.
Well, now that you addressed it, you can let loose now. Yeah.
I will. And I have water here too, so to help kind of do whatever, you know the drill.
Yeah.
So anyway, shout out to Amy. Shout out to my brother Chris Cartea. He ran 26.2 miles in the Boston Marathon of 2022. He did so good. He's been training since December. It was for charity. I honestly forget the name of the charity that he was running for, but it was for cancer research ultimately. And he ran so well. It's so exciting to be there at the Boston Marathon. You think I went to the Eagles parade back in, what year was that?
2018.
Yeah. I didn't care for it. It was very cold. It was very cold when they won the Super Bowl. Yeah. It was so cold, and you couldn't have enough layers, and it was so crowded, and I felt like claustrophobic around all those people, and it was for like a split second of excitement when the players walked by. If you were even that close, luckily my family, we were pretty close, and we were able to kind of see them come by, whatever.
Right.
But oh my gosh, I vowed, I was like, I'm never going to another parade. Like, I'll watch it on TV. Like, it's not worth it to me. So I was a little worried. I was gonna kind of feel the same whatever about, like, dread it. But it's so exciting. It's 26.2 miles. So there's a lot of places you can go, and it's really spread out, and it's not like crazy crowded. Well, like, I don't know. Everyone has someone there cheering them on, so it is crowded in certain spots, but in other spots you go to, it's just really chill. It's like, it's really awesome. So we saw him 6 miles in, and we were cheering him on. It was so exciting. I was getting, me and my other sister-in-law, Megan, shout out Megan Edmonds. I was going to call her Megan Holmes, which is her maiden name, but I've been calling her Megan Holmes my whole life, so it's really hard to break that habit. We were getting oddly emotional. See, before we saw Chris, we were watching everyone cheer on all these other runners, and it's so exciting to just clap and cheer them on, and some of them have their name printed on their shirt so you can call them out by name, yeah, Danielle, you got this, and they're just they appreciate it, and it's so exciting. And then when you see someone oh, the rush. It was a huge adrenaline rush.
Yeah, definitely.
You felt that too.
For sure. Yeah, when we saw Chris, it was Wow.
It
like
was so exciting.
it was quite a high. Yeah.
It really was. I don't know
Yeah.
how to explain it.
Yeah. The like you said, the adrenaline rush was crazy. Like it took a good amount of time actually after seeing him to like be like, like calm down.
Yeah, you want to do it like 20 more times.
Yeah.
But it was such a crazy day because we decided to take public transit from the 6 Mile point all the way down to the finish line.
Yeah. In downtown Boston.
In downtown, in downtown Boston. And it was like really hard to it was like an SAT question. It was like, because you can track the runners and you can track like how many minutes per mile they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, if Chris is doing an 8.5 minute mile and the train comes every hour,
mm-hmm.
how like will we make it to the 20-mile mark on time? And there's a point in the run called Heartbreak Hill, and is it before the 20-mile mark, or
it's right after?
I think it's right after the 20-mile mark.
It's in between the 20 and 21-mile marks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we really needed to catch him there because he had told my mom that he wanted her to hand him like a applesauce pack or whatever for him for some nourishment at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So we really wanted to meet him there to hand that to him. So it was insane. We were on the train. The train was stopping at every stop. It was not express. It was stop and go.
Yep.
And sorry, I have to remember to breathe.
Yeah. And it was also tough because, like you said, the train was only coming once an hour. So if we missed a train, which we didn't, luckily.
No, yeah.
Because it was just the one train for that particular line. But
mm-hmm.
So that was tough. Yeah.
It was. So all this to say, we were debating actually whether or not we should just skip Heartbreak Hill and go right to the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
But we had to go to Heartbreak Hill. We had to give him these things.
Yeah.
I mean, he probably would have been fine, but I don't know. We wanted to do it.
I think he liked seeing us.
I think so.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so what happened was we decided to do it. We stopped at the train station closest to Heartbreak Hill, and there's not one close by, so it was like 1.5 miles we had to walk.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we had to walk 1.5 miles.
That was really when the math came in, because it was like, okay, we're 1.5 miles from the hill, and we're like tracking him, and it was like, I think he was like 2.5 miles away.
Right.
And I was like, oh wow, like we have
10 minutes.
We gotta move. Yeah. Maybe not 10 minutes, but yeah, no, like we had to move.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was, I mean, we made it. We did make it. I think, especially at that point, and also going, like, because we met him at the top of the hill.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we met him at the end of Heartbreak Hill. So he was kind of slowing down
yeah,
anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
It kind of went to like 10 minutes a mile or something, or 9.
I think he was a little higher. I think it was like 11 or 12.
11 or 12 minutes a mile. So that
at
actually
that point
worked in our favor.
Yeah.
We wanted him to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we met him and we were there for like a good 5 minutes before we even saw him. So we like made it in time. And we were able to hand him we were able to see him, and we were able to cheer him on, and it was so exciting. And you could see him rallying, and then you could hand him the applesauce pack, and he completely breathed and it was gone. He just completely inhaled it. Yeah. And he kept going, and then we didn't catch him in time for the finish line because obviously security there is extremely tight. So
also transportation down to the city was
that's right. We had to take a commuter line, is it called? The green
they called it the green line. Yeah, it's basically like a
it's a smaller kind of train system.
It's almost like a trolley. Yeah.
Yeah. We were packed in there.
Yeah.
You could not breathe. It was crazy. So we had to pack in there to meet him at the finish line. So that took a while.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, it was fun. And then we went to their house afterwards for some roast beef sandwiches and mac and cheese. And we had Easter there. That was on Monday. We had Easter there on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And we we saw like this whole story is just to tell you we saw our niece and nephew, and our nephew was sick, and I think that's what I caught.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of the story.
Yeah. Either something from him or something from being on a very crowded trolley.
I'm gonna say it's from him.
Yeah.
I like the idea of catching something from a family member.
Yeah.
Than something that's not from a family member.
Also, yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, like, I didn't get sick, not initially.
That's so weird. Is I felt, yeah, I was just me. Like, we came home on Tuesday, and Wednesday I had a fever, and Josh didn't feel it until like yesterday, really, which is kind of crazy to me.
Yeah.
But that worked out. He was able to take care of me.
Yeah.
In my time of need.
That's true. That's true.
So it was so much fun, and we had a great Airbnb that we'll probably use again because it was so nice.
Yeah.
But when we're all up there,
Mm-hmm.
we road tripped with Nani and Megan, which is always like our favorite thing,
Mm-hmm.
which is my brother and my sister-in-law, who I mentioned before.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I kind of have something on my mind that I want to talk about. It's not as serious as my tone is
I know
implying.
your tone got very serious.
No, it's really silly. I want to talk about like the tipping culture that's happening right now.
Oh, right.
I don't know if it's a culture, but I'm just going to call it tipping culture.
Yeah.
And the way I grew up, you only tipped at a restaurant with servers when they bring the food to you.
Right, right.
Or like at a coffee shop or
Mhm.
something. Or well, then coffee shops became more popular, and then you tipped at coffee shops. And now, okay, so we were in Rochester, New York a couple weeks ago, and we went to this frozen yogurt place. And if you're familiar with frozen yogurt, you know that you literally like grab your own cup, you like choose your own yogurt, you literally pour it into the cup, you like put on your own toppings and everything,
Mm-hmm.
and then the person at the cash register literally just weighs it and tells you how much you owe.
Right.
So this, like, I don't know, what's she, 17?
Yeah, she was
I mean,
young.
it's not her fault. They have those iPads where you like pay on the iPad,
Mm-hmm.
and then they flip it over and it's asked like, how much do you want to tip?
Yeah.
And you feel compelled to tip something.
Right.
It's like
yeah.
15, 18, 20%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the guilt trip.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I felt like, luckily you paid, or else I would have tipped 20%. Josh, it does not faze Josh. He's just like, yeah, they're not going to get tipped. They didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Which, I get. Like, I want to, like, I understand that, and I wish I was more like that.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like, if he's not there, like, I will tip.
I know.
And it's so bad. And it feels
it's not
wrong
bad.
to
You
say.
have a kind heart.
No, I have a gullible heart. It's just not kind. It's just I'm very easily persuaded to do something that I shouldn't do.
Maybe not gullible. That's not the right word. But like,
I don't know. I'm very much a rule follower. Like, if you tell me, so like a good example is we were at Six Flags last summer, and it was like, at that point in the day, it was kind of the end of the day, we wanted to go on this one ride, and there really wasn't a line. So Josh was like, oh, let's just go to the fast pass lane. And I was like, no, we need a fast pass. And we need to go on the regular line. They'll yell at us. And he's like, oh my gosh, who did I marry? Like, what is this, like, perfect little, not perfect.
No.
What is this annoying little rule follower?
I think it was, the way I was viewing it was like the fast pass lane was just a way to jump.
If there were a line.
Well, no, there wasn't a line, so you had to like go through like in and out and in and out
do the
and
whole
out.
maze.
And I was like, I don't want to do that, so let's just walk around.
Yeah.
And then it puts you right, because there was nobody in.
Yeah, there was no one in line, so like it would have been fine, but my brain was like, it like screamed. So that's what I mean. I'm very much like a rule follower. It's so funny. Me and his mom are the exact same way.
Yeah.
Like, we have so many of the same personality characteristics, and that's one of them, where we are both such rule followers. And I'm sure she feels the same way about tipping, honestly.
She might. Yeah, she might.
So I want to just, get straight places where it's okay to tip, places where you shouldn't feel
That's a good, yeah.
obligated to tip. Froyo, you should not feel obligated to tip
No.
because they're not doing anything. You put it on the scale, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
they just tell you how much.
Yeah.
So let's just get it straight. Coffee. Okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think another one where you shouldn't have to tip is if you're going to pick up an order. So like, say you order pizza on the phone, and like, it'll be 20 minutes, and then you go and pick it up.
Yeah.
Sometimes this just happened, and it's funny because I actually fell into the pressure.
Josh fell into the trap,
Yeah.
the tipping trap. Okay, yeah, we ordered a whole bunch of food.
Yeah, we ordered food, and I went to go pick it up, or we went to go pick it up, and I walked in, put my card in, and the guy flipped the thing over, and asked how much I wanted to tip. Now, this guy was like shadowing me, like looking at me hard, seeing what I was going to do.
He knew.
And he was a large man, and I was nervous.
You knew he would have called you out on it if you didn't tip.
So I tipped like the lowest one that was on there, but
like
I did do it.
15 or 12 or something.
I think it was 10, yeah.
Whew.
But like, for picking up an order, like
Yeah.
I'm the one that's driving out and like
That's
going to pick it
true.
up.
No, that's true. It's true. You
You know what I
shouldn't
mean?
feel obligated
They should
to
tip me. For,
tip.
I'm the delivery guy.
You are the delivery guy.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good one. Pizza. How much do you tip on pizza delivery if they deliver?
Oh
it to
yeah, I do 20%. Yeah,
20%. Okay, that's good.
or I try to. Yeah.
No, yeah, same. Where else? So obviously, you tip at a salon, like you tip at a
Yeah.
like a spa type of treatment, whatever.
Yeah.
Coffee shops.
Yeah. This is probably the one gray area.
Okay, Starbucks.
No, never.
No tip.
No.
Okay, but like a privately owned
Yeah, I would
coffee
tip
shop.
for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, me too.
Maybe not like crazy. I probably wouldn't follow the 20% rule, but like if it's like, although I guess it would be, 'cause if I get a $5 coffee, I get 'em $1.
Mm-hmm.
That's 20%.
It's so funny 'cause
You know?
I feel even that I feel like I need to tip like 25%.
Yeah, I get that.
Like it feels wrong to just give like $1.
Yeah, right, 'cause it's low. Right, I get that.
But I know I shouldn't feel that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I feel like I should give them like $5.
Yeah. I do think it's similar to like a bartender at like a bar
Right.
where the expectation is you do tip.
Bartender, you have to tip because they don't get paid anything.
Right.
They get paid like literally $2 an hour.
Oh, really? Is that why? I didn't
think
know
it's
that.
the same thing as like servers. Like servers literally get paid like $2 an hour.
I didn't realize that. I didn't know that. I didn't
Yeah.
know why that was the expectation for bartenders.
They do not make a livable wage without tips,
Yeah.
which is insane.
That is insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
We should just adopt what England does and just get rid of the tipping
Please.
system.
It's gonna be, we are planning to go to Europe at one point. We are planning like in the future, and it's gonna be so weird to not feel the need to tip.
This could be awesome.
Josh is so excited.
Yeah. No, that is really nice. And I think, I could be wrong. I would assume that maybe the prices are a little higher. Maybe they kind of like.
Yeah, I don't know how
You
it
know.
works. I feel like I read a story once where they said they wanted to figure out how much it would cost to like a restaurant, like a privately owned restaurant was like, maybe it was during COVID or whatever, but they wanted to make sure that their not their customers, their employees, yes, thank you. Their employees were making enough, and they like did the adjustments, and they would have to raise some prices on the food items, but it was like 25 cents, $1 maybe on some, like it was not much of an increase on their food. Now, I didn't look into more of the story and didn't, figure out and look at both sides, but if that's all it took, like, come on, that's crazy.
It's not bad.
Wow, that was a big one. Like, why aren't all restaurants doing that? It's so like that really frustrates me.
Yeah.
It frustrates me as a consumer who has to tip.
Right.
Because of that.
It's just the pressure. It's the pressure in those situations where it was never like conventional to tip. Where since COVID, now it's become a thing.
Oh yeah, COVID has like driven up the pressure to tip.
Yeah.
Like fast food restaurants where it was like, this is the one place you don't tip. No,
right.
it's like tip. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe people can make an argument for that. It's like, well, no, yeah, now that like people aren't dining in as much, although I would say more people are now.
Now, but like a couple months ago,
Yeah.
maybe not.
Yeah.
But like, how would it have changed? Like, they wouldn't have tipped. You mean like they have less customers now?
Yeah.
I feel like they have just as much. Like, I feel like drive-thrus are always packed.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking of like, I guess I'm still thinking, I feel like a good example is like a pizza place. You know what I mean? Like, you can go in and sit down at a pizza place and like, you'll have a server and like,
that's
they'll bring you out pizza.
Oh,
and
yeah, I
stuff.
wasn't thinking about pizza. I was thinking about like Wendy's or something.
Oh, no, yeah. No, of course.
Yeah.
But like, you know, you sit down, server comes out, you'll tip the server at the end of the night. But like, before, if you were ordering pickup, you didn't tip. Like, you know?
But they ask for it.
Yeah. What was that?
But they ask.
They do now. Yeah.
But that's flipping iPad.
Right. I know.
I dread that thing.
I know.
And then, oh my gosh, also, if there's other people behind me in line who can see the screen, I feel the pressure there too. If they're gonna see me tip or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really.
They might go off what you do. Yeah.
Or I'm the leader or the alpha in the situation.
That could be it.
So we are curious about what you guys think of this topic.
Yeah.
So yeah, comment on the YouTube video, Bair Attack YouTube, and of course when I announce the episode release, I'll link all of those in my following stories.
Yeah.
I have to cough.
Nice.
Excuse me. Okay, so today we wanted to talk about our marriage advice that we would give to engaged couples who maybe are in their first month or two of marriage, couples who are dating with the intent to be married.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've talked about in the past like our do's and don'ts for like dating, specifically Christian dating. So we thought it would be fun to kind of do this. These aren't really do's or don'ts. These are just kind of specific to what we've learned and pretty specific to our, marriage journey, I guess, so far. Marriages has been amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
It's been the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah.
And
yeah, just to add to what you're saying, I think, this is just from what we've learned over the last year and a half, over the course of our very short marriage so far.
Yeah, very short. We've only been married a year and a half. So
but I mean, at the same time, I feel like these things are really important, the things we're going to talk about. And I think like most married couples who've been married much longer than we have would agree with these things.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think it's just things that we've learned. I wouldn't say the hard way. It's just things that we've just learned from being married. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't say the hard way because it hasn't been
the natural way.
Yeah, maybe natural way. Yeah, or learned ourselves rather than like somebody telling us. Yeah.
Yeah, and like we'll try to give maybe specific example, not like too specific. We don't want to like.
No, yeah.
Air out everything.
We can try to give some examples.
But just to show that like it is from personal experience. So the first one I want to say is like you are not meant to fulfill each other in marriage. Like this, like in the cliche you hear a lot in the world is he's my other half, she's my other half. But recently I have been hearing, no, you're not like halves to each other. You're like each your whole person. And that's good. But I want to take it even further to say, like, we're doing this as worship to God. Like, we're not doing this to, like, worship each other. Yeah. If you ever find yourself finding you're putting all your happiness into your spouse, you're going to be severely disappointed because as humans and as sinful, wretched people who have been saved by grace, like we're gonna disappoint each other. There's gonna be something I do that he didn't expect that is gonna like take a toll on our marriage, and vice versa. And there's gonna be things where, and like once you adopt that mindset or like accept that truth, it's just gonna make your outlook so much better.
For sure.
Like as you move forward in your marriage.
Yeah.
I just got really worked up there for a second.
You gotta take a breath. Yeah.
Not emotional, just passionate.
Well, here, while you're taking a breath, I wanted to say that when me and Tori first got engaged, just to add to everything that this point, that we're making. When we first got engaged, something really weird happened. We both had pretty strong panic attacks the day after we got engaged.
Like literally. Like, okay, wait, keep going.
Yeah. No, it was scary, and we were both freaking out, and we were like, "Oh my gosh, what are we doing?"
It's
like
back. The doubt is back.
Yeah. Oh, right for you.
That was
yeah,
for me. That was my fear.
Yeah. And I was freaking out. I was like, "Wow, like this is happening." Like, whoa, okay. But I think one of the things that we realized that really helped us is this point, which is, marriage is not meant for each person to fulfill the other person,
Right.
In a Christian marriage, like,
yes,
I mean, I would say in all marriages.
Yeah. But,
so,
Christians, we understand this much better.
Yeah. And like, the point of walking through marriage with somebody else is to, your brothers and sisters in Christ still, and so, and I think that might be another point maybe later on.
It is. I kind of want to go back to like the engagement story really quick.
Yeah.
So we got engaged on February 9th.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so too. 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really beautiful. He took me to the Liberty 2 observation deck.
Liberty 1, yeah.
Liberty 1 observation deck in Philly. He took me out for amazing breakfast at our favorite restaurant in Philadelphia, Park, spelled P-A-R-C. Really good. I highly recommend it if you're in the area. And yeah, he took me to the Liberty 1 observation deck and he proposed, and it was amazing. And I remember feeling like on the ride home, just like anxious, and like there was a weight on my chest, and like I just didn't feel, I felt off. And I mean, we came home and like a bunch of my family was waiting for me with like champagne we actually picked up the champagne, but whatever. So we came home, there was like people waiting for us, and it was like, yay, you're engaged, whatever, the whole shebang, and pictures and whatever. And just still that weight on my chest, and I just felt really off, and I felt like there was a fog around me all day, and I just remember like not feeling happy. Like I remember not feeling as happy as I expected to feel. Like of course I was overjoyed in the moment, but the more like my brain processed what was happening, it was like, what's going on right now? Like this doesn't feel normal. So I remember we talked about it. Did we go out to like Suburban that night? I feel like we talked.
No.
Okay. I forget.
Oh yes, we did that night.
I think we went out to Suburban that night with some friends.
Yeah.
And in his like truck, when like while we were about to drive home, I remember being like, Josh, I don't feel okay.
Yeah.
Like, and you were like, me neither.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, good. And it was so like validating.
Yeah.
But like, I remember we did not, like, we were an anxious pile of mess. And the more we processed it, we realized we weren't like anxious about our choice in each other.
Yeah.
It was just, I don't know, something about.
It was change. That's what it was.
Yeah. It was change.
Anxiety of change. Yeah.
Exactly. I remember Googling it, and I found this book called like Surviving the the Happiest Time of Your Life or something. There's a whole genre about it. I didn't end up getting the book, but I felt very validated reading the article.
Yeah.
Of course you're going to feel this way. This is totally normal. Not everyone may feel this way, and that's okay too.
I don't think. Yeah. No.
Maybe
I don't think
most
so.
people won't feel this way.
I don't know. It's hard to speak to. I remember talking to a few people about it, and everyone was like, "No, I didn't feel that way." I was like, "All right."
If you do, just know you're not alone.
Yeah.
It's totally normal. Share this podcast with someone who you may think might have a panic attack when they get engaged. So, share the knowledge that it's totally okay and totally normal.
Yeah.
Okay, the next point we want to bring up, and do you want to bring up a point?
Yeah.
Or do you want me to pick another one?
No, yeah, I'll bring up one. Yeah.
Okay. We have a list here on our phones that we're looking at.
Yeah.
For those listening.
So the next point is something that we kind of mentioned in the first point, which is that, your spouse, from a Christian perspective, your spouse is your brother or sister in Christ. So like.
Right. So like. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you got it. Yeah.
Are you sure? Is it okay?
I mean, I was just gonna say, like, it's important to understand and realize that, because it can be, there are many things in the Bible that talk about how us as Christians are supposed to treat other Christians. You know what I mean? And of course, there are things about husbands and how they should treat their wives, and wives how they should treat their husbands. But in a marriage, the instructions to a husband, like, those aren't the only instructions a husband is supposed to follow in how he treats his wife, and vice versa for how a wife treats her husband. Like, the other instructions for how, other Christians are supposed to treat other Christians, like, those apply in a marriage as well. Yeah. So,
Right, exactly. Like, the biggest thing, so we went to premarital counseling, provided by...
Highly recommended. Yeah.
Highly recommend premarital counseling, for a number of reasons that we'll get into, but it was provided by our church, and it wasn't one-on-one. It was a big group of, not big group, I don't know, there were like 6 couples in there.
Yeah, something like
or
that.
something. And it was couples of all different stages. So there were a couple of newly engaged couples, like Josh and I were, and there was even a couple in there who had been married for like 10 years, even had kids, but they were newly saved. So they kind of wanted a biblical perspective on marriage and how they could apply that now. So it was really awesome to see all of that, or to be among all those people, because the 10-year marriage people could give a whole new different type of insight on, for us, like, newly engaged people, which was so awesome. And so anyway, the biggest thing I took away from, there's a couple big things I took away from premarital counseling, but one of them was that, like, the verses the teacher would go to mostly, like, were about how to treat a brother and sister in Christ. Like, and of course, like Josh was saying, in marriage, there's even greater instruction and even a greater burden for, like, husband and wives. But in day to day, like, you just need to look to those verses that instruct you on how to treat, brother and sister in Christ, not like in blood relation, whatever.
No, brother and sister in Christ.
Exactly. So, that was a huge takeaway for me. And, so if you're kind of just reading the Bible and you or if you're, like, kind of wondering if it's any different, like, if marriage is any different than how you're living now, like, I don't know, we had, like, there's always a fear going into marriage, like, the first year is the hardest, they say, and, like, oh my gosh, like, you're gonna fight all the time and whatever. But
yeah, we heard that from a few people.
From a few different people. Some people we heard, no, it's not really like that for us, or there's all these different perspectives, and that's totally fine. But, like, you don't, and, like, but it's frustrating because you don't know what it's gonna be like for you. Like, it could go either way.
Yeah.
Like, are we gonna fight all the time? Are we gonna, like, actually be chill? Like, what is it gonna be like? And you just don't know. But the best place to start is the Bible. Like, read and, like, absorb what, like, God's word, and, like, how he's instructing you basically to treat, like, your friend and other Christians. Like, start there, and then get into the marriage, like, specifically marital advice.
Definitely. And I would say, just to kind of bounce off that a little bit, for our first year of marriage, it was amazing. It was really great. I think one of probably the biggest thing that we had to deal with was, like, expectations that we had going into marriage, and, like, adjusting our like, according to what the reality was, luckily for us, we grew up going to the same school throughout middle school and high school, and going to the same church. So we were raised with the exact same sort of, like, biblical doctrine as far as our background. And so, like, it's actually been pretty easy. Like, I can only imagine, couples who maybe have different views on things, and then coming together and being married, how, like, that could be kind of difficult, especially when it comes to views on marriage, and, like,
and if you're not expecting it to be different too.
Exactly. So, for us, there were different things where we, like, had to adjust expectations to what reality was, and so, like, I think that's going to be true for every marriage. Like, nobody knows, like, what marriage is going to be like unless they've been married. So, like,
That's also so hard about it.
Yeah.
You
So
have to live it.
yeah, and so right. So what I'm saying is like I think the adjustment period that we have with our expectations, I think that's just like a normal thing that I would think every newly married couple goes through.
Yeah.
You know, and so that was something we went through, and during that time, it it was a lot of communication that needed to be done, and a lot of like grace, and I feel like that was something we did really well, and so
yeah, 100%. Yeah, we. Like Josh said, it's going to happen for every couple. There's just going to be something you don't expect. And what's amazing is that your marriage doesn't have to look like your friend's marriage and like, or your parents' marriage or whatever marriage is around you at this point in time.
Right.
Like, just because they're doing something doesn't mean that works for you. And like, doesn't mean you have to implement that into your marriage. Sure. So like, I guess that brings up another point. Like, just don't compare yourself to other relationships.
Yeah.
It's not going to look the same. If you're doing something and it's not working for you, communicate that and realize, like, are we still happy? Yeah, okay, then we don't have to implement that anymore. Yeah. Whatever that is. Let's say you wanted to have a date night every Friday, and like time-wise, that's just not working out. That doesn't mean you have a bad marriage. That just means time-wise, it's not working out.
Right.
Like, you can adjust your expectations. That's kind of a silly example, but I don't know. It might be
real.
I
think to bounce off that example, like, there might be one couple who is able to have a date night every Friday night because their schedules allow for that. But like, if your schedule doesn't allow for that, that's okay. Like, there are ways to work around it. Like do what's from what we've learned, it's like needing to those types of things is like what we've had to learn is like, okay, like we know these things are good. We know it's good to like. As cliche as it is, it really is still good to like go out on dates while you're still married and stuff. And I think that definitely will become more of like a focused action when kids are in the picture, I'm sure. But
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but like, I mean, like bouncing off that example, like it's just a matter of if Friday nights aren't good for us, then it's like, okay, well, like what other nights are good for us, or like what other pockets of time are good for us where we both are free and like we can do this or that, you know what I mean? Or
like adjusting your date, like what your date looks like. So like some couples may be able to go out to a new restaurant every week. Yours might just be, let's make this special by getting every brand of popcorn we can at the supermarket and trying them all and watching Modern Family. That's what we're watching right now. Yeah. So it can be like way more low key, so it's more manageable or something. Like, if it's becoming stressful to you, like, then it's something to talk about.
Yeah, definitely.
And adjust.
For sure. All right, you want to do the next one?
Yeah. I think what another point that goes off of this one is do not be afraid to seek godly counsel for stuff going on in your marriage. So, like, it's not, this isn't saying like, we were reading like marriage advice before this podcast. It's
on the internet.
On the internet, not in like a godly book or whatever.
No.
We were just kind of seeing like what was out there, and one of them was like, oh gosh, I'm so sorry, everyone. That just kind of vomited
that wasn't
out
bad
of
at all.
No, okay, no, it didn't sound bad. Okay, good. One of them was like, it's okay to vent to someone about your spouse. Like, that doesn't mean you're talking badly about them. And so that was kind of weird. But, like I don't know, like, how we feel about that one, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like, the advice was saying, like, people say, don't talk badly about your spouse, which we agree with. But it's not a bad thing to, like, vent to someone about how you're feeling in your marriage if there's a specific issue going on.
Yeah.
Which was weird. But it kind of brings me up, like, I feel like the Christian counterpart of that marriage is to, like, seek counsel together.
The Christian counterpart of that advice. Yeah.
Of that advice. Sorry. Yeah. The Christian version, I guess, would be to, like, go together as a couple, maybe. If it gets to this point and you feel like you need to, which is, like, there's no shame in whatsoever to, like, seek godly counsel from someone who's older than you, has been married longer than you, has a successful marriage, and can kind of give you like a completely different insight on maybe what's going on, and maybe can say like, why are your expectations that? Do you want them to be that? Like, is that burdensome for you? Would it be like feel better to take that off your plate? Or like, can direct you somewhere else or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's, instead of, you know, like let's say talking to each other, it's just kind of, you're kind of hitting a roadblock or whatever. Like
like if you both maybe like try a few different things, you know what I mean, in trying to solve this whatever it is, and like you feel like you're both like hitting a roadblock, like you said, you know, at that point I think it's really wise to seek Christian counsel together. And so that's something that we experienced, and that's something that we ended up doing, and it was like it was really
so liberating.
Very, very liberating. Yeah. And I feel like for us, being able to do that has actually really helped us so much in our marriage, in our young marriage life.
Grew our trust in each other.
Yep.
Like helped our communication in a whole new way. Like I feel like we're good communicators, but that just kind of took it to a new level.
For sure. Yeah.
And so I highly recommend that to everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Cool. Yep. You want to do another one? Yeah.
Okay. Let's do like a fun one, like, or a funny one, like in-law boundaries. In-law boundaries. So mother, father-in-law boundaries for each other. Now I have the most amazing mother and father-in-law. I have the most amazing in-law family. And I would say you have the most amazing in-law family.
I do. Yeah.
I feel like we're just very blessed. Like we don't have, I don't know. I'll just say, I feel like I hear stereotypical.
Stories. Yeah. And you hear stories. Yeah.
You do hear stories. Like, I don't know. So, but like we have no complaints whatsoever about our in-laws. But a good advice that we heard before we got married is to, you know, check with each other before, okay, so let me give an example. Let's say Josh is coming over to my house, not my house. Let's say we're going over to my parents' house as a married couple and for dinner or whatever. Like, it's considerate to check in with him and say, hey, how long are you comfortable staying? And if he says, I'm good till whenever, and that's awesome. But if he says, I really can just make it till 9:30 or 10 o'clock, like, I really don't want to stay later than that. Like, I should not take offense to that, like, and say, and just be mindful of the time and kind of text each other throughout the night about how you're feeling. And let's say he texts me and he's like, hey, like, I'm good to stay and play a game with your family and whatever. Then that's good. So that's just like good advice we heard from other couples before we got married, and I think it can really help a lot of people out there. Yeah,
and I think for us that's what the quote unquote in-law boundaries looks like.
Yes, that's all we need right now.
Yes, I mean, so far we haven't needed anything more, which is great. And so, but for other people, it might have to look like something like minimizing visits to once a week or once a month or whatever, you know, whatever is good for you, you know. So, but yeah, like we were saying.
Yeah, like maybe your spouse has an expectation that they're going to have dinner at their parents' house. Like you'll have dinner at your parents' house every Saturday night.
Right.
And you're thinking, no, I want some Saturday nights just for you, like just for me and you.
Right.
Like that's something to talk about and to adjust your expectations on.
Definitely.
Or maybe you're both cool with it. I don't know.
I know that's another
maybe
thing.
You're like, no, let's up the free dinner.
Yeah. I might argue that it's still unhealthy, but yeah.
Yeah, well.
No, but you're right. At the same time, if you're both okay with it, you know.
Whatever.
I don't know. Yeah.
We won't get too deep into that.
No, yeah.
Yeah. So, in-law boundary. So for holidays, this is good to talk about. What are your expectations for Thanksgiving and Christmas? Those are the two big ones that, like, you know, we didn't have to worry about Easter this year because we were over my brother's house, but my brother and sister-in-law's house. But, you know, kind of say, okay, when's the big night? Like, when for Thanksgiving, like, what does your family do? And, like, okay, so for example, for us, my mom, like, she loves to do a big Thanksgiving dinner, and, you know, my brother and sister-in-law come down from Thanksgiving.
We like a lunch, Thanksgiving lunch.
Is that we eat at 4?
I thought it was a little earlier.
I mean, I feel like everyone eats Thanksgiving dinner at, like, really early.
Well, we're fortunate because mine eats it late.
that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot we go over to your Grandma
Grandma's,
Poppy's house.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot that.
Yours eats it at like 2 or 3, maybe 4, and then we dip and then we go to my
we can go
family.
hang out for a little bit and then we can go to your family. And we're lucky that we live, like, our families all live really close to each other.
Yeah, we are
There's
lucky.
Just a lot of lucky, we're blessed in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And then for Christmas, like, my mom has always done a big Christmas Eve dinner, and his family has always done a big Christmas nights, like Christmas Day nights dinner, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And so, like, that's kind of always worked out. But I don't know if there might be a holiday where each of your families does a big thing on the same night, and you guys are going to have to figure that out. I would recommend, just based off holidays, do not burn yourself out. Like, especially on Christmas, something we did this last year that I loved is we didn't make any commitments prior to 1 o'clock on Christmas Day. Like, we made that chunk of time like a big priority. And that's something we didn't do our first year. We did, oh my gosh, it was crazy our first year. We did Christmas Eve at my family's house, and then we did Christmas morning at my family's house, and then we went to his house for Christmas, his family's house for Christmas lunch, and we went to his, like, extended family's house for Christmas dinner. Like, it was insane. We were burnt out. I was actually really depressed the following week because I was like, we didn't have a Christmas, really. It was we spent a lot of time in the car, and that was really depressing. So this year I made it a priority that we would have Christmas morning to ourselves, and it was just the best decision we've ever made. Like,
Definitely.
We got to wake up, we got to just lounge and like open presents, and
we got each other gifts.
Open, like, gifts.
We're both like
I know, like, our throats are all like messed up right now. But okay, that's just my biggest piece of advice to newlyweds is you feel the need to visit everyone because you feel I feel like guilty. I think like guilt is a common emotion that could be felt, and you shouldn't have to feel that way. You should be able to feel liberated to take time for yourselves. And our families never put pressure on us. We just put that pressure on ourselves, just to be clear. But if it is happening where family's putting pressure on you, just know you have permission from us to take some time to yourselves. Okay, like that's a totally valid feeling to feel.
If they ask, just say Tori and Josh Bair from the Bair Attack podcast.
Yes, give them this podcast.
That you're okay. That's okay. You can set boundaries.
Yes, it's okay. 1000%.
Good. Cool. One of the next things that we want to talk about, we only have 2 more points that we'll talk about, but is I think a lot of times, especially for, I feel like it doesn't matter if you're an introvert or extrovert. Everybody needs some alone time. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so, that desire for alone time doesn't just go away when you get married. So there. It's worth talking about that and communicating about that and saying like, hey, like I need a few hours to like just kind of chill by myself or whatever. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like that's okay. That's okay to do that. I think, of course, there's an extent where that might be a red flag if somebody's like doing that like all the time.
Every night.
Right. Yeah. Probably
not great.
Probably not great. But I mean, like every once in a while, like I know for me personally, that was something that I was actually pretty nervous about coming into marriage was because I came from, or I come from like a background of having depression and anxiety and stuff, and so using that alone time was actually really healthy for me. It was really rejuvenating and good for like my mental health. So that was something I was really nervous about, but that was something that I communicated with Tori pretty early on, and so we
like in our dating life.
Yeah. So that was something that like it was sort of which was good that we talked about that in our dating life, because then like coming into marriage there was the expectation of like, okay, like I should be good, like we should. Tori
you
will
feel
be
safe to come to me and tell me, and I won't take it personally. Like
definitely.
So like what happened in our dating life is, at first I took like offense to it because I didn't really know what it meant. Like I didn't know if it was a personal thing against me, like, like, does he find me overwhelming, like, whatever. But it really wasn't that at all. It was just like, as introverts, you have a certain like battery charge, and the number of social situations you're in, that battery charge just decreases with every level, and you just reach the end and you need a night to yourself to recharge. It's kind of as simple as that. And it doesn't have anything to do with the people around you or whatever. Well, maybe it does, but it didn't have anything to do with me. It wasn't that I was draining him, which is what I was afraid of. But you explained to me, like, no, this happens, like, regardless whether you were in the picture or not, which made me feel better. So make sure you communicate that point to your, you know, your partner.
For sure. And then the last thing, and I would say probably the most important one. Yeah, is that you're doing everything in your marriage unto Christ. Like, you're doing all things, you know, and marriage is no different in that way. Like, the way you operate in your marriage, like, you're doing that unto Christ, or you should be doing that unto Christ. And so I felt like that actually took a lot of pressure off. When, like, I remember when, like we were talking about earlier, when we got engaged, we both had those panic attacks, and I remember, for me particularly, I was freaking out. I feel like the understanding and realizing, like, the way I live my life is not going to change necessarily, in the sense, I should say, like, the purpose of my life is not going to change once we get married. That's really good, yeah. Like, my life is always going to be given unto Christ, and I'm always going to be living my life unto Christ, and that doesn't matter if I'm single or married. And so that, I feel like that really helped kind of, like, relieve some of that pressure, because it was like, oh, good. Like, I think I was freaking out, and we were both freaking out so much because of, like, oh my gosh, it's so much change. It was nice to realize, like, oh, well, like, that's not ever going to change, you know,
that's
like.
That's so true.
Yeah. And so that was really helpful. And so
100%,
you know, at the end of the day, like, sure, maybe your tasks will change, in the sense of, like, obviously when you're single, like, you don't have a husband or wife to submit to, or, like, respect or love or whatever. So, like, obviously when you're married, like, yeah, you do those things. But
yeah, that's the extra level that comes with marriage, right? Is
exactly.
Wives, submit to your husbands. Husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church.
Yep, exactly. But the main goal and the main purpose is still the same, and that's, like, seeking to honor the Lord in what you're doing. And so, yeah,
I'm not submitting to Josh as my husband because I'm afraid of him, or like what I'm doing that as
it's
a
like
reflection
make me feel
of
good
me.
or something.
Yeah, to make you feel good or whatever. I'm doing that because by submitting to him, I'm submitting to Christ.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Like,
100%. Yeah.
Like, I'm not doing that for him. I'm doing that for my Lord and Savior.
Yeah.
And that's the purpose, kind of like what you were talking about. And he's not loving me because of me. He's loving me because,
well, I do love you.
He loves me very much, and I love him very much.
Yeah. No, I think, like,
but the ultimate purpose is because you love Christ.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for us now, being married for only a year and a half, you know, like, some of those things can be easy at times, like submitting to your husband and loving your wife. Like, those things can be pretty easy to do, which is awesome, which is really great. And I love that it's easy at times, which is awesome. But, like, during the times when it's difficult to do, that's when you have to remember, like, okay, like, maybe I don't necessarily feel like doing the dishes right now. But I know, like, that's really going to honor my wife. And at the end of the day, I know that's really going to, what that means is that that's going to honor the Lord,
exactly.
You know?
Or
so.
Maybe there's, like, a financial decision that has to be made. And, like, as a wife, you're convinced you know the right answer, but your husband is saying, he's not shutting you down. He's like, this is what it kind of looks like for us in a healthy way. This is a fake example that does not happen because he handles our finances and I trust him completely with that. But I don't know, like, let's say excuse me, let's say there's, like, a financial decision and he's, you know, I'm, like, trying to, like, convince that there's another way to do something, and, you know, I just have to remind myself, like, and he's listening to what I have to say and respectfully saying, and respectfully is the key word, and lovingly is the key word, kind of saying, no, like, I think, like, this is the better way. Like, I have to just be like, he's the head of household. submitting to him, and because I am submitting to Christ in that way. Like, that's how I worship God in that moment.
Yeah.
And he carries, and that means, what it means is he also carries a heavier burden for the result of that decision. Like, let's say the result of that decision is terrible and awful. Like, he bears the burden of that. Like, I don't have to bear that burden, which is so liberating and makes it so much easier to do, in my opinion. So this looks different for everyone, I think.
I think so.
It doesn't mean I don't know. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
This doesn't mean I don't have a say in our household.
No, of
this
course. This
doesn't mean I can't, like, be, like, a homemaker and, like, make decisions. Like, that doesn't mean that at all. But when it comes to him having a differing opinion, like, that's who I submit. That's what I submit to. And on the flip side of that, Josh's responsibility as a Christian husband is to love me as a wife, like, love me, his wife, as Christ loved the church. And if you think about what that means Christ came down to earth, like 100% God, 100% man, and he died on the cross for our sins, and, like, in the most torturous way possible at that time. He was beaten until he was unrecognizable. He was, hung on the cross. He was dehydrated. He was stabbed. Like, that's what that means.
Yep.
And that's Josh's responsibility.
Yeah.
And I get obviously emotional talking about that, because that's a greater responsibility. Like, that's how he needs, like, that's to the extent he needs to love me. I think. I don't know. We're still figuring it out.
Yeah. I mean, no. I mean, the Bible says that husbands are to love their wives the same way Christ loves the church, and then wives are to submit to their husbands the same way the church submits to Christ. Yeah.
I will happily do that, because I know the way Christ loved the church, and that makes me want to, like, worship God at all times and worship Christ at all times. Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, these are all still things that we're trying to figure out. You know what I mean? I mean, we're only, like we've been saying, like, we're only a year and a half married. So, like, we're so young in our married life. But, like, one of the things that we were taught in premarital counseling, which was super, super helpful for us, I know for me in particular, it was very helpful, was that, when you're a week married, you're only a week good at being married. And when you're a year and a half married, you're only a year and a half good at being married. When you're 15 years married, you're only 15 years good at being married, and so on and so forth. I think the fear that I had was I was just putting so much pressure on myself to...
Yeah, me too. To be the perfect head of household, and for, like, to be the perfect
for me,
role that the Bible calls you to.
Yep.
Like, I remember we were talking to, like, our pastor about this and his wife, like, together, and he was like, here's, like, I think he could see how panicked we were.
Yeah.
We were close to our wedding, and we were like, what do we do? Give us a step-by-step instruction on how to be a good husband and how to be a good wife. And he was like, listen, guys.
And that's what he said.
And that's exactly what he said. He's like, you're only as good at being married as long as you've been married for.
Yeah.
Like, that's no pressure. You're learning this together. And it's true. That's exactly what it is. You learn it together.
Yeah. And there's grace in that.
100%.
There's grace in that, which is awesome.
Yeah. So that's the end of this podcast, and we hope you enjoyed it. We had the best time doing this, like, topic with you guys, and we hoped it was helpful. And if you have any questions, like, feel free to DM me, and if there's more topics like this you want us to talk about, like, we would be more than happy to.
For sure.
Because we love talking about this type of stuff. We feel, very passionately about it. And so don't forget to comment or like the YouTube video at Bair Attack YouTube, or you can give us a follow on Spotify and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. That would absolutely make our day.
Oh, that'd be really nice. And Spotify has that too now.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Leave us a review on Spotify and Apple.
Yeah.
And share this podcast with someone who is engaged, dating with the intent to marry that person, newly married, and, like, share it. Share it with everyone.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're single, I think it's a good podcast to listen to still.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, exactly. So we'll catch you guys next week.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.